What is going on, everybody? I'm BitWZan, and joining me today we have Mazentius on the East Coast.
How's it going, brother?
It's going well. It's been a great week, and
Very exciting weekend.
very exciting week, and it's gonna be a very exciting little discussion or review we got here because we're gonna be reviewing Avengers Endgame,
In this very special edition.
very special edition. We wanted to do one last year. Unfortunately, that went all tits up for Infinity War. But we're going to get a chance to do the Endgame review. The culmination of 22 movies of over 10 years of build-up. It all ends with this saga of a movie we got going on here.
10 years.
10 years.
I was in high school when this started.
Yeah. 2008. I was in Okinawa, Japan there. It was a crazy time. I do want to state though before you go further into listening to this will be spoiler heavy review. We're gonna be going over everything.
Yeah,
We're
this is gonna be a spoiler filled.
Spoiler filled. Yeah. We'll if you want to hear kind of like a non-spoilerish review of the movie, you might want to listen to the normal podcast, which should be coming out. Depending, but we have the normal podcast, and we'll kind of like discuss like our general feelings of the movie. So if you want those non-spoiler review there, we'll probably talk about it then. But this one, we're gonna be kind of like dissecting everything from beginning to end and like not holding back. So this has been your warning. Turn back now if you haven't seen the movie, which you should. I mean, I don't know why you would listen to anything if you haven't seen this movie, but
Yeah.
I'm assuming if you're listening to this, then you've probably seen the movie already. Or you're a glutton for punishment. I don't know. So some of the stuff we're going to be discussing. What happened?
Yeah. So with that said.
Yeah. So with that
let's go
said,
into it.
some of the stuff we're going to be discussing are our general impressions of the movie. How well we felt the plot felt, like how it felt, and certain scenes in the movie and certain things that happened to characters and what we felt about them. And possibly even ideas for what may happen next going on in the future of the MCU. So I also want to I know a lot of people have been saying this, but I want to say give shout outs to that whole crew over there at Marvel Studios, freaking Feige and the Russos and Marvel and the cast for everything for what they've done. That shit was freaking awesome and impressive and such great work that they were able to put out as much stuff as they did and as well as they did consistently all throughout these last years.
It's pretty much pumping out almost 3 movies a year?
Almost 3 movies a year for the last decade. And generally the quality of them has been good to excellent, I would say.
Yeah, there was a few
there was a few ones that were okay, but they weren't. I don't think there's a bad movie in the bunch, personally.
Yeah.
But let's start off with overall impressions, Mez. I mean, what could you say? What's your overall impression of this movie?
I mean, I honestly, I thought Infinity War was gonna be the top of all things, and they somehow managed. In my opinion, they went beyond that. I feel like this was a better film than even Infinity War was.
Okay.
I know some people thought Infinity War was better for some reasons and stuff like that, but for me, Endgame, as a comic book fan, I thought this was better than Infinity War. They did a lot, a lot of callbacks to the old movies. They did a lot of things I feel like it felt like what a comic book coming to the movie screen would be like. So to me, it was an amazing movie. There's nothing else to really say. How about you? What was your impression coming out of this?
So I kind of agree. For me, it is better than Infinity War, but the reason it's better than Infinity War is because Infinity War exists. You know what I'm saying? It feels like the movies, not to be crazy punish or anything like that, but they're balanced off of each other. One without the other does it. This makes Infinity War better, but this movie is better because of Infinity War also. So it's this weird circle that having these movies connected, is what makes them so good because they play off each other so well. I just think as a movie generally overall, like the way it was the way it's done, I mean, it's hard to compare them off each other because like in the first one, like it kind of dissects more of it's a character piece more of Thanos in the first Infinity War. And this one
Yeah.
kind of like, goes more into the Avengers, which it surprisingly dives more into them, and we'll talk about that later on when we get to certain scenes. But it goes more into like into the like a lot of these characters get to bust out their acting chops, and you forget that these people can act. Like you've been seeing them in like superhero roles for so long that you forget like, yo, shit, like Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, and Robert Downey, they can act. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even like Chris Hemsworth. Like they're actors, like they're really good actors. You forget that because
Yeah.
you've been watching them be like that, but like they busted out in
That's
this movie, and it's really good for it.
Especially in the first. We'll talk about how we're gonna separate kind of this movie into acts because it's so long.
It
You can't
is.
just overall but especially like during like the first act of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
it's really about the characters and like what they've gone through and like their development.
Yes,
Like then like the second and third acts, like it kind of varies, but that first act is especially what
heavy.
you're talking about,
it's heavy in it.
where you look into the characters a lot more.
Yeah. So let's start with that. Actually, start with the kind of like the very the very beginning of the movie. Like I want to start with how
let's start right off the bat.
right off the bat. Let's start with the beginning. So
try to get you in the feels.
how do you feel? What was your feeling or how your take on how this whole scene with how they got Tony back, how they were like that whole confrontation between him and Captain America.
Well, before even that, like the very first scene in the movie was the whole Hawkeye scene.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like the thing is just like the movie just starts up and you just see Hawkeye with his family, like he's under house arrest and everything, and you just see like it was crazy. Like he doesn't even know what's happening because he didn't see anyone turn to dust. His back was turned the whole time. He just knew they were gone.
And that's a really good because they haven't had that. I don't think they've had that kind of experience before where we've had somebody who was dusted, but the person didn't know. Like I know Scott Lang kind of goes through it, but he doesn't see the dusted either. Like he doesn't know what's happening. He didn't know that people disappeared. He just know that he got left in the quantum realm. Whereas here it was like he turned around and his daughter was gone. And then he calls out to his wife and the other kids, and they're gone. And it's just like a panic of what the fuck is happening. And yeah, that adds so much like a different feeling to the whole being dusted thing, where it was like, oh shit, like it has so much more impact now because of that.
Yeah. Like it's just crazy to think about that too, because like the people who knew what was going on was out of like the Avengers who all on like on the whole like the battlefront.
Yeah.
But like for a normal like other human who didn't know what was going on, all you knew is like suddenly people are disappearing, and if you didn't know or didn't see that happening, imagine you just like try to like you go into work one day, half the people are gone, you try to call your family, like people aren't answering. It's like you wouldn't know what's going on at all.
And you didn't like you said, he didn't even have like the sight to see it, like how in like when Nick Fury and was like dusted and Maria Hill, they kind of saw what happened, right? Like Nick Fury saw it happening to Maria and was kind of like, oh shit, like something big is happening. Whereas like you said, Hawkeye didn't even like see that. It just kind of was like your worst nightmare of like you turn around and your family's gone and you don't know why. You don't even know it's a dusting thing. You're just like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, and that one, that was like their emotional way to start the movie.
Yeah.
That was the very first scene they showed, and then that was before like even the opening credits.
Yes,
and everything.
It was like it was. I mean, yeah, because that was just before the Marvel logo. That wasn't before the opening credits, because like the opening credits was the whole Tony scene, and I think even the Thanos scene and stuff like that. But I don't want to spend too much time on just one, because if we do that, we're gonna be here for like 5 hours. But yeah, so how they found Tony, like. How did you feel about that one? Was it like, obviously a lot of the stuff they did was kind of like off screen. If you watch the end of Captain Marvel, that's kind of implying how they were able to find Tony. But like, do you think you were able to get that from watching the movie, or were you kind of like, wait, how the fuck did Captain Marvel just find Tony like that? Like, it was kind of like, an easy way.
Yeah, I feel like in some way they had to kind of have that like Deus Ex Machina. Was like, well, he got found
But do you think
by
that scene was needed for this movie, or I mean for this part, or was it kind of like, well, this is why you had to see Captain Marvel, at least the ending of Captain Marvel, to see how she found Tony. Like,
no. Did they explain how she found Tony in the end of Captain Marvel?
yeah, the scene where she meets up with the Avengers and she's like, where's Fury? The implication is obviously that either Rocket or who's the other one or Nebula, not Nebula. Who's the other one that went with him? It was that was there.
Thor.
Thor, yeah, would have told them where they were at because they were the ones in space.
Well, even they wouldn't have known because they split up because those two went to make Thor's new hammer.
Yeah, but they
so
knew
they had an idea of like they were in Titan.
Yeah, and they
But
were. It
they
wasn't like
didn't
they
really
were
know
that
exactly.
far off from Titan. Like Tony said, they were like 48 hours away.
Yeah.
So I mean, in space, that can't be that far. I mean, for her either. She's just like flying around all over the place and stuff like that. That's what I got from it. That where it was like they just kind of ballparked. And it's like, oh, this is where he was supposed to be at. So
Yeah. Also, it could have been like Rocket had some type of way to track
that's true.
the ship.
The ship, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't feel like they need to get too much into explaining how she found it. It's like she found it. That's how he got back.
Okay.
Pretty much.
What about the scene like when he got back? I really love that scene, the confrontation between him and Steve, where you felt like, oh, everything was gonna be fine. Like after they found him, you saw he was like, oh, they got the kid, or we couldn't do this, and I was like, oh, okay, this is where they make up, and then they have that fucking great like dramatic scene where like, yep, they busting out those chops.
Yeah, because like I think that was the scene where like you see Tony was broken. He was a broken man already.
Yep. And it harkens back all to that they go back to even like what was the one Age of Ultron, where they had the same kind of discussion, and he even like brings it back saying like, if we lose, we'll lose together, and he was like, I told you this is what we needed. And I was like, I love that they're calling everything back, because like it would make sense. This is what Tony was advocating for, and Steve shut it down, and now it's kind of like he's trying to put it on him and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like I said, like that's they kind of went on odds too. Where even that whole scene where he was like, "Oh, Tony, we need you," and Tony was like, "I needed you," past tense.
Yeah,
it's like that kind of stuff. Like that argument was like, it's kind of like that whole thing when people talk about like when you see like your parents fighting and stuff like that. It's like that kind of thing.
It's like, oh no, like I thought you guys are gonna be friends by now. What happened?
Yeah. It's like you're supposed to come together. What's going on? But yeah,
such a great one.
Like, that stuff was really good.
And so then they move on from there to actually finding Thanos, locating him. They kind of like, how do you feel about how they went about getting Thanos and stuff like that? Like, because I felt like for the sake of pacing, they kind of like sped through it a bit, right? They were just kind of like, oh, we found him, he's here, and like, let's go get him, kind of a thing. I was like, oh wow, it's kind of like. Really, I guess he wasn't like trying too hard to hide, because he was kind of like accomplished his mission. But I don't know, what was your take on that whole like cold opening?
Yeah, I felt like the one thing that kind of was weird was the fact that they had Nebula said, oh, he was supposed to go to his garden and whatever like that. I'm like, seeing the way that they actually found him, that kind of wasn't needed, because the way they found him anyway was based off the energy signature that was given off of the gauntlet. So like, what was the kind of the point of her explaining like, oh,
because they knew where to look
to the garden.
Like they would have spent how many whatever years possibly looking at every planet looking for those energy signatures. But if they know where to look, they can say, okay, this is the planet, and now we see there was an energy signature coming from that planet, so we know he's there. You know what I'm saying? Because if not,
did she know the specific planet that he was referring to when he said he was going to the garden?
Yes, that was the idea I got. It was like, just he said, he told her which planet she was going to go to, and he just called it the garden, and so I guess she gave them the coordinates of it or something like that. So that's what I got from it was that because of what she said, they knew where to look at. Because if not, you're going to spend an eternity looking for every planet that might have those energy signatures coming out from it.
All right.
But
yeah, Yeah, I did kind of like that cold open of them just like attacking Thanos and Thor, obviously being overcome with his emotion, just going for the head.
Yeah, going for the head. That kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, wait a minute, are we in for something totally different? Because you think they're gonna go there and save the day and like have this big confrontation, and it kind of wasn't that at all. It was kind of like, I mean, a curb stomp of Thanos because at that point he just didn't care, and he ended up destroying the stones. And I was like, oh shit, like, are they actually gonna go full like in on this whole on this like new universe kind of a thing, right? Like, how are they gonna make these guys get it back? Uh,
Yeah.
then they killed him, and then we move on to the next scene, which goes off into 5 years later.
Yeah.
There's a
and
time jump.
This is kind of what we were talking about earlier when it's like you see more like the emotions of these characters because you see what they went through, like what they're trying to do to get over it.
Yes.
Because you see Cap doing like the whole
Guidance counselor, paying counselor to
Yeah.
the griefing counselor to a whole bunch, which I think was like one of the Russos. It looks like.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
The guy who was talking was Joe Russo.
Okay, I was like, yeah, it looks like one of the Russos were there, playing one of the characters in the movie. And I liked it. I liked that part because you have to show that. You have to show the impact of, of the snap, of the dusting and stuff like that. Because if not, then it's kind of like meaningless. But like they show how like they have all those ships porting into the Statue of Liberty. They show like junkyards all over the place around. Was it not MetLife Stadium? City Field, yeah, the Met Stadium. And then they have the counselor sessions with all this thing, and like they just talk. It shows you the new order of things, and I was like, okay, where like there's this new council of like it looks like Black Widow is kind of like running things as like Shield director, or I don't even know if it's Shield director, but like just director of this new Avengers thing they got going on. Yeah. And they have the little council. You got Rocket, you got Captain Marvel, War Machine. And who was the last one that was also there doing things? Oh, Nebula.
Okaye?
What's that?
Okaye.
Okaye and Nebula, I think too.
Yeah.
They were all kind of like the little in session, and I was like, maybe this is just how things are gonna be. And yeah, that leads us to Ant-Man. How do you like that whole thing? How they brought him back, and how he kind of played into this movie.
For me, it's was one of those things where it was like, it's kind of weird. It's like he got brought back by chance that a rat was like crawling over the right buttons.
One in a million shot.
Like,
yeah,
but it's something like it kind of happened. So I'm like, all right, it's one of those things where like you kind of have to accept that's what happened.
Yes, for the plot to move forward, something has to happen. A rat stepped on the right button or whatever.
And he was able to get out and then saw all that stuff. And then, like, what was kind of cool, like, the fact that they had that whole, I guess, memorial for everyone who died.
Yep.
And you saw his immediate thought was going to looking for his daughter, pretty much, to see if she was there. And then that's how you find, like, he saw his own name. And kind of, he figured that everyone thought he was dead.
Or vanished, is what they call them. The vanished.
Yeah. I mean,
the scene with his daughter too, where he goes and he's like, "Dang, you realize he missed 5 years of of his child growing up," and like I don't want to jump too far ahead, but like knowing that this is where it's gonna be like from now on is kind of like sad because that's it. He missed those 5 years. There's no getting them back, kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's one of the things I feel like they threw continuity off a little bit for me because.
Continuity is all over the place with this movie. Like I don't, but all right, go ahead.
But this is I want to jump around a little bit. But here's they show like that Cassie grew up and like there was a 5-year difference.
Yeah.
And later on they show like the whole thing with Peter.
Oh yeah.
He says like, oh, Doctor Strange has been 5 years. It felt like it was 5 seconds or whatever for him. Mm-hmm. But at the end. He goes back to the school, and all his classmates are still there.
Well, we don't know all of them are still there. We know. What's Wow, I can't remember his name. His friend is still there.
Ned. I
Yeah,
think.
Ned. We know Ned is still there. We don't
But
know
it's 5 years. He's in high school. Why is he still there and still the same age?
because we don't know if he was vanished. We didn't get that from.
I guess.
Like, I mean, Far From
That's
Home
weird.
might be able to like detail that more, but we don't know if Ned and any other his classmates, MJ or any of those guys, like the important people, were
Yeah.
vanished and everybody else maybe moved on, and who knows, like what the, like, this is not something else that we don't really know about, and they didn't really like divulge in the movie about it. Like, we don't know what kind of life went on, like what if just all high school was put on hold for it. I mean, it wouldn't stop the aging for the people that lived there, but then maybe there was no high school, maybe there was nothing, who knows.
Yeah. I guess.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm guessing maybe Far From Home may have more answers to that. I thought it was weird as well, like him going back to high school. Like, why would you do that? Like, I mean, you're obviously 5 years. Well, he's not 5 years older. The world is.
No.
So I guess he can still go back to high school. I don't know. I feel that's one of those things where I was like, okay, I feel like it's gonna have to be explained in Far From Home, and they're probably gonna take all the essential characters and vanish them just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Because, like, I don't know, the time things, like, within even the MCU, it's all weird and stuff like that, because even with the first Spider-Man movie, like, it has its time, like, at a different point where it says, like, the incident happened for Michael Keaton's character, the Vulture. So that was, like, all over the place. Like, you don't really know where the hell, like, anything is at. You don't.
Yeah.
Like, what year is it in the future thing? Is it 2019 or is it 2023? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I took it as, like, maybe it's 2023, like the 5-year jump.
Yeah.
But then even when this girl, when they, I don't want to jump too much, but even when they see, like, when they meet the Ancient One, she says the same thing, kind of like, oh, you're 5 years too early for, this guy, Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, when did his movie come out then? Like, I'm like, was it 5 years? And I was like, 2000, because, like, they were in New York, so 2012, so it's like 5 years, 2017. I was like, is that when Doctor Strange came out? And possibly it did or whatever, but I'm not even sure at this point. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, I just took it as whatever. We're just getting back to the normal. And that was actually the next thing I was going to ask you, because, like, the use of time travel and things like that. But, like, going back into the whole scene with Ant-Man and everything, how they implement him and, like, his, plan for use of time travel and what they're going to do. They eventually go into time travel. Like, it's what we all thought it would be. It's implemented a little bit more differently than I think maybe anybody theorized. I didn't see anybody, like, guess it the way that they do it in this movie. Like, maybe there's somebody who did and I just didn't see the video, but the people that I've seen, no, like, we all thought time travel would fit into some way into this, but we thought it was gonna be courtesy of the Infinity Stone, the Time Stone, not necessarily what they had done and what they do. But how do you like what they did? And you can kind of like explain it if you want.
I did see a few people, like, talking about the whole quantum realm thing, like, even
but not how they,
but not in this way.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, because even I stated, like, oh, they're gonna go to the quantum realm, but I thought they were gonna be like multiple. They're gonna be like at different, because I said they're gonna be at different points in, like, the MCU, but I didn't even, like, specify the way they were gonna do it. Like, I thought they were gonna go and change things, kind of a way, right? And that's not exactly what happened.
Yeah, they even, like, go into that in the movie where they're like, where Brandon was kind of explaining it. He was like,
yeah,
you can't change the past and get a new present.
Yes,
because your present will, like, they had the whole like spiel about it that I can't even.
Which I liked, because, like, cause it was funny, because, like, they all, like, him and Ant-Man were just like War Machine and Ant-Man were kind of just, like, telling him this is the way movies do it. Like, he's, like, spotting off all these movies that let him know, like, the rules are, if you go back in time, you can't talk to yourself, you can't interfere with it. But if you change something, then it's gonna bring a new future. It's like Back to the Future and stuff like that, right? Like, that's what. And he was like, and Banner was like, no, you can't. That doesn't work that way. It doesn't make any sense. Like if you go back and change it, that's still your past self. So if you change the future, your future self doesn't exist to go back to do the thing you're doing right now. So it doesn't make sense. And I was like, yeah, okay, I get what he's saying. Like, if you change the future, you change the past, then the future self who went back to the past to change something couldn't have possibly have done that. So things have to progress the way they are, like the way they were supposed to progress. So it doesn't matter. Like, does it really? Is that the way? I don't know. Who the hell knows? Nobody knows time travel rules. Everybody's all making up anyway. But it made sense to me in the context of how they were using it. Like, where I was like, okay,
that's the rules they made.
That's the rules they made
set for their universe.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, even all of that, that was like really good. Like, I feel like they used like this movie for me had a really good balance of like the action, comedy, and emotion. Like, even in some of those parts where they were like first testing the time travel thing, when they had like Ant-Man becoming a kid,
not even that, even before that, where they were gathering like the people, gathering the Hulk. I mean, like, we skipped kind of right over it, but now he's Professor Hulk now. Yeah, and I was like, oh shit, like that's pretty cool. Like, that's a new development for that character, where Hulk and Banner have kind of merged. They kind of skimmed over how he did it. They explained it, said like, yeah, he did this, and and now it's Professor Hulk. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, that's a cool thing to. So like, that's the Banner we have now. And then you have Fat Thor, which
Fat Thor
was great. Like, I like how they finally like kind of like, it paid off the stress that he was going through, because he kind of was like putting it all kind of like away, right? And they kind of played with it a little bit in Infinity War when he's talking to Rocket, and he kind of breaks down, like he kind of, I think he finally sees it, that his mother's dead, right? And then his father died in Ragnarok, and then his best friend got killed by Thanos along with his brother and half of the people that he was supposed to protect. And it kind of set him with him there.
Asgard was destroyed.
Asgard was destroyed. And it kind of like he realized it in that moment with this guy. And then when he fucked up, well, not he fucked up, but when he considered he fails to kill Thanos, that kind of was his breaking point as well. I don't know what you thought. Did it pay off? Like, how I liked it. Did you think it paid off well for that whole scene, or was it just kind of like, I don't know? Yeah,
they even kind of showed it when they had like in like that beginning before the 5-year jump, when he was like just sitting down by himself, and everyone like look at him like, oh, it's up with him. It's like you could tell like he was probably one like that held that weight on his shoulders the most.
Oh yeah, because
he's the one who had the chance to kill Thanos.
Yep.
And Thanos pretty much told him, like, you should, like, this is how you fucked up.
Yep.
So you should have gone for the head. And then like he's being told his failure right in that moment, and like he's carrying that weight on him the whole time.
Yeah, he has like a whole chip on his shoulder the whole movie about it, and like he never really I don't think he gets past it up until maybe after everything happened. Like, the whole movie he has that chip of like he's gonna do this. Like, he wants to kill Thanos. He wants to redeem himself for what he considers a failure.
Well, even because in the beginning he was the one that killed Thanos. He's the one that chopped off his head.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't enough. It's like you did it, but you didn't change anything.
Yeah.
Everyone is still gone. So it wasn't even like the whole killing him. It was like he has to find a way to win, to like kind of redeem himself.
And to your point about how they mix humor and the drama, like that scene for me was sad. Like, it was thick with sadness because of like how you can kind of like relate to somebody who letting themselves go because of like depression or sadness, or like, this guilt that they have, maybe survivor's guilt, kind of a feeling that he has, that he failed to do this, and now he's also like survived. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these other people have died, but he's still here, kind of a feeling. And he's like letting himself go. He's drinking a lot. He has the freaking gut, which is, it's funny. He has like a muscular gut still. It's like the guy's still muscular, but he has like the beer belly and stuff like that. So it was great. And then they play into like the humor a little bit, where you have the friends there, like Korg. I forgot the other little slime thing there, where they're like playing Fortnite, which I'm surprised 5 years later Fortnite's still a thing. But I guess with half the population gone, there's no creativity to make games anymore. That's what I figured. And like that whole scene where he's on the headset and he's like, hey, that guy is he's here again. He's picking on me. And Thor is like, Daddy Thor takes it, and he's like, if you keep messing with him, I'm gonna. I was like, okay, like that's kind of what you're saying to your point, where like they throw in the humor still, like it's still there, even in the scene that could be considered like really like depressing and sad for Thor.
Yeah. And then again, like when they do like the whole Ant-Man thing, they're like trying to progress the story by showing how they're testing out the time machine stuff, but they still throw in the humor with the like going through the wrong paths.
Yep.
And when Ant-Man comes back, he's like, someone peed in my pants.
Yeah.
And like that whole little scene.
And then we get into Tony and his 5-year jump.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I thought it was really well done. His 5-year jump, his life afterwards.
Yeah, because that 5-year thing, like his life, kind of it gave you the dilemma for Tony, because without the fact that because he had a kid during that time,
he's married.
And
I'm assuming he's happily married now. He's
yeah.
They have a little kiddo now, Morgan Stark.
And and without that, there would be no reason for him not to want to help the Avengers.
Exactly.
But like he even said it himself, he's like he doesn't want to go back and mess with time travel because he doesn't want to lose what he has.
Yeah, he straight out tells, like when he eventually joins the team, he straight out tells Captain America, like, my priorities are getting back what we lost, but keeping what I have. Like he just straight out told him that. Like he's like, I ain't trying to change my shit. Like I like what I have. And again, that's a kind of relatable thing where like if you have such a good life now, even though it happened at the expense of so much shit, like if it was, you get the feeling that he's okay with what he has, but if it wasn't for maybe Parker not surviving, because that's kind of I think what throws him back into getting like figuring out the time travel thing is like he has to remember like Peter Parker, like that was kind of like a surrogate kid for him as well, and he wants to get him back, and I think that ultimately is what throws him back into it. So that's why he's like, I want to get back what we lost, but I got to keep what I have. But I like that. I do like that. I do like that he kind of like eventually did find his life and moved on and everything that.
It kind of goes into that whole thing, like when Captain first talks to Black Widow after the whole counseling scene, he was like, "Oh, like everyone else like has to try to move on,
yeah,
not us."
but not us.
Tony was probably one of the only ones that moved on.
Well, I mean, Banner kind of did. Banner eventually moved on. He not to go back to the scene with him, but like that whole diner scene, he's kind of like a well-known figure now. He's like, like he's popular. He's a celebrity.
Yeah.
That's another scene that was really good where what Ant-Man was like, you want a picture of me? And the kids are like, no. And you see Hulk is like, yeah, they do. And he's like, no. I was like, take the goddamn phone. I was like, so well done. That's great. That is great. Also another thing, a lot of cursing in this one. Usually we get like 1 or 2 shits maybe, but like this one was a lot of they dropped some cursing in this one. No F-bombs, but a lot of shits, a lot of asses. That goddamn was in there. They will let them play loose with the language. But let's see. So we got the Iron Man. So now we're gonna go into the actual gathering of the stones and like the years they got them from.
The Act 2.
Yeah. This was like this is like kind of the start of Act 2 where they actually like they call it the time heist. Well, everybody's on board now. They're actually designating where groups to go to these certain points in time to try to go get the Infinity Stones back from the past.
Yeah. I love the fact too, like when they were like, going into this and they were bringing in Thor to go back to like Fat Thor. Like when you first saw him walking into the Avengers thing, I was like, holy shit, that looks like the dude. And then like a second later, you hear, of course, Stark was like One Way Lebowski.
Yep.
I was like, perfect.
And that's all. Just that's all I saw after that. Yeah, he was just the dude. Even in the briefing room when he's like sleeping or knocked out or whatever, and he has to give his briefing. Man, Thor has so much like pain. It's great where he was like just telling all about the what is it? The powers? No, the Reality Stone. And he was saying like, I used to date Jane Foster, and we're not together anymore, and my mother died that day, and like you just goddamn, the guy has so much freaking pain behind him, man. Like Jesus, like it's no wonder. Like eventually it was gonna break down for him. Okay. Yeah. Let's go down this. They finally figure out where the things are at. Black Widow kind of puts it together that there are 3 Infinity Stones in New York at a certain place in time, which I thought was a pretty good like deduction by her. Let's start with there. We have NYC 2012, original
Pretty
Avengers
much
time
go
frame.
to Avengers. Yeah.
What'd you think?
I like the way they did it because they kind of go back to they show like the kind of iconic Avengers scene
Yes.
of them going like all together and the camera panning around all of them and all of that. And then another one of those like comedy scenes where you see like Hawk go by and like smashing the guy and smashing the car.
Yeah.
And then you see Captain America's like, oh, just destroy little stuff.
Yeah.
And you see like Professor Hulk just like weakly destroying the car, like with no enthusiasm behind
Roar.
it.
Yeah. It's like a great scene. That one and the America's Ass by Ant-Man was another great funny scene, because I love how Ant-Man just freaking idolizes Captain America. Like, he makes no apologies about it. He's a fucking fanboy of Cap, and I can relate to that. So like when he was saluting America's Ass, I was like, goddamn right, that's America's ass. Like, I love that.
Yeah, and they had like a lot of callbacks to the movies, like in the whole elevator scene, which was a callback to what was that, Winter Soldier.
Oh
He's in
yeah,
the elevator and he
Yes.
fights all of the Hydra agents and kind of like in the same situation.
Yep.
Where he's in the elevator with the same guys, but this time he has like the knowledge of what happens.
Yes.
And uses that in his advantage when he does like the whole Hail Hydra thing.
Which is another little
To get
callback to the
the-
comic books as well.
Yeah.
Which I liked. I was like, oh, they put that in there. Okay, that was nice. Nice little twist on that whole scene. It was like pretty good.
So like instead of just fighting his way to get the staff to get the Mind Stone, he just kind of uses the knowledge he has already of people who are gonna betray him anyway.
Yeah.
To get what he wanted. So like that was a nice little callback to it there. Then like the failed heist for the Space Stone, the Tesseract, between
Yes.
Ant-Man and Tony.
Which is, I mean, before we move on, I want to ask you what kind of, or if any, do you think implications could cause from that? Because like, there was the failed heist by Tony and Ant-Man where because Hulk took the stairs, he smashes through, knocks Tony out. The Tesseract floats away, goes towards Loki's feet, where past Tony and past Thor are having like a freaking argument with with Pierce about who should have the Tesseract. They have a scuffle and all this stuff is happening. Tony has a heart attack because Ant-Man pulls out some freaking whatever reactor thing, and he has like this heart attack, thing going on. So everybody's distracted. The Tesseract's at Loki's feet. He picks it up and fucking vanishes into space.
He's gone.
What do you think
and I
that's gonna create, if anything?
They
Because
kind of set up the whole thing too, and I don't know if it was like a little bit earlier or a little bit later there
Mhm.
when Professor Hulk is talking with the Ancient One.
Yes.
And she's talking about how like if the stones are out of place, then it's creating a new reality.
Yeah.
And like a new timeline.
Yeah. Not a new reality, but there's a new a tangent. I think she's what she said. A new tangent will be created where like something else is gonna be happening. Yeah. A new kind of like whatever. A new tangent universe.
In that way, being that the stone is not being taken, that creates that tangent because now Loki has the stone.
Yes.
Loki is gone. So that creates a way for them to like, I know they were doing the whole Disney Plus thing where Loki's got his own series. It might be going off of that tangent of when Loki takes the Space Stone.
Yes.
Because now that creates a whole different set of stories you can do. Because Loki's not going to end up imprisoned. He's not going to end up going through all of that. So in the end, he probably won't end up being killed by Thanos, and it creates a whole different like set of circumstances that can happen now.
It does. It might be a whole different Loki because everything he becomes later on is because of what happened to him through Avengers, through Thor: Dark World, Ragnarok, and Infinity War. And that doesn't happen now because he has that stone. Does he still placate to Thanos, with it? Because his whole plan was to get the other stone, but like he failed. So does he just go on his own little adventures? We don't know. Maybe that's something they'll.
Well, there's no Thanos anymore because that year, like that, I guess, that year's, or I guess the next year's Thanos, which should be 2012, goes into the future and gets killed.
Interesting. But if he's in a tangent universe, does that still apply?
Huh.
Because
Hey,
Loki's
so many questions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Loki's
many
not in
questions.
that main universe anymore where 2014 Thanos goes into the future. He's in his own tangent universe where he takes the stone away out of her. So, oh, whatever. We
Yeah.
can freaking rack our heads. We don't know. That's something that's gonna happen
But yeah,
later
but
on.
my guess is that's going to be where they start that whole Disney Plus
thing.
Loki series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go on to they go into Asgard in 2013 to get the Aether, the Reality Stone from Jane Foster. Using that stock footage of her because I don't believe she was in this movie at all. like I know they had the scene where she was in it, but I think that was just stock footage from the actual Thor: The Dark World movie.
That's probably why you only saw Rocket in those scenes because they could just CGI into it.
How do you think that scene played out?
I think the most important part of that whole like Asgard thing was Thor talking to his mom, because I feel like we were talking about before with the whole broken Thor and him trying to get over it. I feel like that's one of the scenes that was leading to him kind of being fixed, is having kind of that counseling session with his mom.
Yep. She gives the pep talk.
Yeah, where she says like, "Oh, it's like everyone fails who they're supposed to be. You can only be who you are."
Yes. Yeah, he echoes that same sentiment or that same line to Valkyrie later on in the movie.
Yeah, because you could tell like those words meant a lot to him.
Yeah, especially coming from his mother, where I don't think he got a chance to talk to her before she died that day. So like, I guess this kind of gave him a closure to that as well, that he probably didn't even know he needed. He just kind of like rode with it at the time, but after all this stuff bubbled over, he kind of got that closure from talking to his mom and getting those words from her.
Yeah. And then also a very important part of that whole Asgard thing, along with like getting the Ether, obviously, is him getting Mjolnir back.
Yeah, that is true. He was able to get, but like, so did he take it from Hulk 2013 then? I mean, from Thor 2013.
From Thor, I guess, but that also goes into the whole like very end. I guess they kind of did it along with when they're sending back all the stones to the correct time. You see, they take the hammer. They take the hammer
as well. It's true.
So he's probably putting that into the correct place too as well.
That's true. Okay, and Mjolnir plays into the later on in the movie. But let's go on to the last stones. We have Morag and Vormir in 2014. Morag is probably the most one that has like the most to it, because that's a lot of plot elements happen there because of Nebula.
Yeah.
How do you think that played with Nebula, like her past and future self being in there, and how past Nebula was able to freaking R2D2, the image of future Nebula coming out so that Thanos can see it, and like and that's how he was able to like kind of like know what they were planning and counter plan against them.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of explained that in a good way, because when they talked, I forgot the guy's name.
Ebony Maw.
Yeah, Ebony Maw kind of says like that everything that she has is like in a network, so it's in her isolated network. So even though there's a second Nebula, they're still sharing that same network, so everything's going there. So I'm like, all right, that kind of makes sense, because it's not just like within her body; it's a external network that's shared. So like, I guess that's the way they're explaining why all that stuff is going into the 2014 Nebula. It's because it's not like internal. It's kind of,
it's not a brain thing. It's like
all in the cloud.
Yeah, essentially. So yeah, I kind of got that too, and I didn't have a problem with it, because like you needed something. You needed a plot element to get Thanos involved, because otherwise where was the conflict going to come from? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it was good, like everything in a kind of like Avengers movies, like nothing's gonna happen as smooth as they want it to be.
Of course not. Yeah.
So there's always gonna be like something that pops up that they didn't expect, and this is one of those things.
And it also puts Gamora back into play, because this was 2014, and this was still Gamora before Guardians, before she met up with the Guardians. She's still with Thanos. You have Nebula, who's still has the chip on her shoulder about trying to be better than her sister, and has more, like a whole bunch to prove. So she kind of goes out of her way to try to like prove that she's loyal to him, and like, because like he sees that eventually she does side with the Avengers, And she's like, okay, I'm gonna prove to you, like, I'm not gonna betray you. I'm not that person. That isn't me. So she's on a hunt to go after future Nebula. That happens when, like, eventually they meet up with Peter Quill, which is another funny scene, another stock footage image they use there of the opening of Guardians 1, where he's like dancing. He gets the stone. They eventually knock him out, take the stone. Nebula's left behind because of that whole network connection thing they have, and gets beat by past Nebula, who goes back to the Avengers in the future, which
in her place.
2023 or whatever future that was. Who knows? So that's how she gets involved. Let's go to Vormir now, where we have 2014. We have Hawkeye and Black Widow, which the two weirdest people to send to the depths of space to handle the situation. But I guess there are reasons for that, because they're the only ones that weren't. Well, not really, because Hawkeye and this girl were in 2012, so they could have gone there. I'm not sure why they didn't send Iron Man and, like, Cap to Vormir, but I guess we'll know when we talk about it in a minute, because as we know, Vormir is where the Soul Stone is at. And in order to get a Soul Stone, there's no workaround. There's no other way to do it. You have to sacrifice.
And this is where we get one of the first real deaths.
Yep.
In Endgame.
And what do you think? How that whole scene played out, and, like, how they went back and forth and deciding who was going to be the one.
It was really good, because you could tell, it's like, when they were doing the whole thing, it's like, oh, we know what we have to do. And Hawkeye even says, it's like, I think we're talking about different things here.
Yeah.
Because you could tell, like, each person was ready to sacrifice themselves.
Yes.
They were pretty much fighting for them to sacrifice themselves for the other person to survive.
Yep. I think it was going against kind of expectations there, the Russos, because I think people were ready or were expecting Hawkeye to be the one, right? And they played it out where it's like, yep, there he goes. He knocked her out. He did something, and he's running towards it, and they just kept going back and forth, and you're like, oh shit, who's gonna be the one now? And, like, so that's why I think they played it off like that.
Yeah, like, even to the point where, like, Hawkeye jumped off of the cliff already, and he was like probably a couple feet down, or like 10 feet down, and Black Widow still caught him with her, like, gauntlet, and, like, kind of
hooked him to the wall.
Ziplined him.
Yeah. And then from there on out, she just put massive weight down, and there's nothing you can do on that thin little hook. That zip line is not gonna hold too much weight, and she's just dead weighting him the whole time, saying, like, let me go, let me go. A very emotional scene, and a very emotional movie, just generally anyway. But this another emotional scene where you can, and they had the right people together, because these two obviously have a history together. It wouldn't have been the same, maybe Cap and Scarlet and Black Widow, but more so Hawkeye and her, because they have such this long-standing history with each other, where he didn't want this on his head. That he wanted to be the one to kind of do this and stuff like that. And she was like, it made sense for me. Like, I have, no family. I don't have the attachments like that. I mean, even though she does, but she was looking for a purpose, and she feels like this is it, So, but it kind of sucked, like, like, for Jeremy Renner, like I said, the acting chops, he brought it out in that face when he's like, saying, like, no, don't do this,
Yeah. In fact, that's one of the things too, is like the fact that Jeremy Renner, like, he or Hawkeye, like, he went into the whole thing because he wanted his family back.
Yeah.
So, like, Natasha's whole thing is, like, why would you kill yourself if your whole point of going into this was to see your family again?
Yeah.
It's like, why would you sacrifice yourself when you have something to gain at the end of this?
Yeah. I just don't think he wanted to go. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And that's what she was telling him. And so it made sense more for her to do it, even though she's probably a much more popular character. And she was supposed to have a movie coming out. But I guess that's going to be, prequel stuff or past things or something like that. Which is fine, because they have plenty to pull from with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they're going to be like, oh, what are we going to do with her? Like, no, you can do from, like, as far back as, when she's just starting out as a freaking agent.
I was also thinking, going back to comics, there has been 2 Black Widows.
Oh, that's true.
They announced a Black Widow movie. They never announced. I don't know if they announced it'll be starring Scarlett Johansson.
I think they did, though.
But
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not.
They can also pull from, like, a second Black Widow.
That's true. That is true. I know there was one in Agent Carter there was a second Black Widow on there. But obviously the TV shows and the things, it's a one-way street there. TV shows get off the movie. The movies don't give a shit about the TV shows.
Yeah.
So then that happened. Eventually
So that's all this. That's
they got all the stones.
together.
They eventually do bring them back to their present time. Then they go deciding into like who's gonna actually be the one to snap the fingers to bring everybody back. And they decide on Thor. On Hulk. Thor was the one like advocating for himself. He was pushing to try to get in there, and that was that whole thing where we were talking about like he still has that guilt. He wants to be the one to fix things, even though like you said he chopped Thanos' head off. He still has that feeling of like I need to be the one to fix this, you know. And they tell him like, yeah, man, your mindset is not right to do this, dog. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So they do it. They pick on Hulk to do it, or Hulk decides to do it. Snaps everybody back. There's a whole great scene there. You know, he's trying to like overcome it. You think that thing is like that black ooze is spreading, you know, whatever. Like the fire is like burning him, and he has to like try to control it. Snaps. The light comes back. All these flowers and trees and things are happening. Scott Lang is looking into it. Phone calls are being received.
Yeah.
And then freaking Thanos just... Oh, well, before that, like Nebula somehow was able to bring them back. Bring Thanos into the future. She like hacked into their little time travel thing and brought this big ass ship that busted through the fucking... like the ceiling of the Avengers headquarters. And yeah, Thanos and them just blasted into this thing.
Because Thanos had the...
Oh, yes, you're right. I forgot. Yeah, that scene. I didn't even mention it. But yeah, Nebula gives him the pin particle to try to come back. So yeah, I did forget about that whole thing.
Yeah, we also like forgot the whole like 1970s scene.
You know, I just thought about that too when I said the pin particle. I forgot that. Yeah, that they did fail to get the the Tesseract. So they were Cap and Iron Man had to go back to the 70s to try to get 2-for-1, where they needed pin particles in order to get back to the future, and they also needed the Tesseract, which they knew was in the Shield's little headquarters or whatever. So they go back in time to the 70s. That scene was great. I did like that scene as well. You know, you had Tony Stark confronting his father. Where I feel like there's a little bit of Back to the Futuring there, where like, Tony was putting stuff into the head of his father that he eventually would tell, kid Tony in the future, kind of a thing, right? Like, it's like, did your father say this line because you told him that in the future? I mean, in the past, like, I don't know. This is time travel stuff is all weird. Then you had the cameo from Stan Lee. I got what I'm guessing will be his last one.
Yeah, it is.
Driving by in his car.
You had Cap seeing
Agent Carter, Peggy Carter.
Again.
Yeah, that brought back a whole bunch of memories for him, and then you see him look down at the pin particle, and I think that's where he made his decision for the future. There. And then good scene overall. I mean, not, other than the Cap seeing Peggy, and Tony seeing his dad. I think there was more about it. Was him seeing his dad and like getting kind of like also like some kind of like closure there with his dad, where he never really got that because like he didn't really know his dad was like super into him until Iron Man 2, when he saw like the video of his dad, that projector movie. Because before that, he thought his dad like hated him or didn't like him or anything like that. So also talking to him like face to face and having this kind of like moment where he got to hug him and see him is like, that was another thing of closure for Tony as well. So yeah, jumping back to where we got like, so they were to get the pin particles, they were to get everything. They go to the future, snap the fingers, bring everybody back. At least they think so. There is, because like Hawkeye's wife calls him, and then Thanos just blasts the place to all hell, which I was like, wow, what the fuck? I thought Scott Lang was done. I thought he was done when he got blasted, because it was like a little nice moment scene. He's like, oh wow, guys, look, and boom. Of course, in typical Avengers Marvel fashion, it's like you can't have anything too nice. And that kind of plays into
starts Act 3.
Yeah, the start. Yeah, I was gonna say the start of the Act 3 here. I want to ask though how they brought everyone back. That whole thing. Like, I don't know. How did you feel about it? Like, did you buy it? Like, was it earned or was it kind of a cheap way? Like how was it too easy, or was it like no, they earned that whole bringing everybody back, snapping them, and everybody comes back kind of a thing? Because a lot of people didn't want that, right? A lot of people didn't want them to just bring everybody back, so easily. They wanted like some kind of like real implications of what happened in Infinity War. So what was your feeling on how they brought everybody back and like the fact that it even happened?
Well, I mean, it had to happen
Yeah.
somehow. Like it was either, I feel like honestly, the way they did it, because a lot of people thought it would just be either them getting the gauntlet and snapping, or them doing time travel and getting everyone back, and they kind of did both.
Yeah.
Where they had to do the time travel, get the stones in the time heist, to get the gauntlet in order to do the snap to get everyone back. So it was a way of kind of earning them back, because it wasn't just like, oh, go to Thanos, fight him, take his gauntlet, undo it, and that's it.
Which was the first act, like kind of subverted.
Yeah,
it was supposed to.
Or
Yeah.
it wasn't just It wasn't just like, oh, go back to that point in Infinity War, and then stop Thanos from snapping.
Yep.
Like it wasn't that either.
Which is what Banner, like Professor Hulk, shut down right away. When I think that was one of the things they even mentioned. I don't know if it was Scott or Rhodey that mentioned, like, why don't we just do this? Like, go back to that point, and do that. Or even like, I think Rhodey was like, kill baby Thanos.
Yeah,
and freaking he was gonna like choke him out too. I was like, damn. But yeah, like then Professor Hulk shut that whole thing down. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was like it was kind of a way of using what like both theories that people had, bringing it together in a way that, like, for me, it felt like they kind of worked towards it. It wasn't a simple thing.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
it was well done. I liked it, and I kind of like just took it. I mean, I don't know if I kind of took it for what it was. It, like you said, it had to happen. I knew it was gonna happen. I knew everybody's gonna come back. So it wasn't like, oh man, that's how they did it. It was kind of like, yeah, okay, I bought it. The journey was earned. You gotta have to do this. You know what I'm saying? And even Iron Man made a point of saying it even before, like when Hulk was snapping. He was like, just to let you know, we're bringing everybody here. We're not going back in time. We're not doing, because that could have been a possibility, just going back in time and doing this, and he had the time stone.
Yeah.
But he was like, no,
like, we're not undoing the last 5 years.
We're not undoing it. Yeah, we're bringing everybody here, because again, that goes to Tony's whole motive. He wants to keep what he has. So that did that, and then I like how they hardlined on permadeaths, saying like, you can't bring Black Widow back. That's it. That was a trade, a trade for trade kind of thing. Hawkeye was telling them like, look, the freaking red floaty guy told me, that you can't do it. Without her death, you don't get the Soul Stone. So I like how they permadeath that. That was kind of like an explanation. It's like, you can't do it.
They even doubled down later on when Banner was like, I tried to bring her back.
Yep.
Like you could tell, he was trying to bring back Natasha. He's like, he couldn't do it. Like,
no.
That was permadeath.
So now we get into the main action, the big action piece of this movie. Start off with, like, after the explosion happened, you have Hawkeye running through the sewers. He's running from the dog people or whatever, space dogs that Rocket Raccoon coined them as. You have Thanos sending out Nebula to go after Hawkeye and Nebula and all those things. Gamora was eventually talked into joining the good guys by future Nebula, telling her that this is what we are. We're sisters, we're friends, kind of a thing like that. And Thanos is just kind of like chilling on the top, just sitting, waiting.
Yeah. And it's like one of the examples of that CGI trickery for like trailers and everything. Like they had that scene where Hawkeye's like going through the sewers and explosions behind him,
but no gauntlet.
And no gauntlet in his hand.
Yeah, it's not
in the action movie. He does have the gauntlet.
Yeah, that's not the only time they've done that, in especially towards the ending part, because there's another one that I was gonna bring up as well. But you have the main three here. You have Iron Man, Cap, and Thor, just kind of like, posing up on Thanos as he's sitting down.
Yeah, in a very badass
scene. Good fight scene. I mean, I don't know what your take. I mean, what else could it be? It was a badass fight scene.
This, I would say, we're gonna get into it real quick right now. This is one of the scenes I legit got chills from.
Yeah,
was probably a scene you popped for as well.
Well,
Was when
I was gonna
we're
build up
going
to
there.
it. I know, but I was trying to build up to it, like, because like they have the little fight scene. They got the scene where with Thanos, they're fighting 2014 Thanos, going back and forth.
Yeah.
Things is happening. Thanos is holding his own with his double-edged blade sword. Which where the hell that was that at in 2018 Thanos? That's
Yeah,
weapon.
I guess he loses it. He's like he doesn't need it once he has the gauntlet.
I guess but he was whipping ass with it. Thor has both Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. That's the point, because like he like you said, he took it from 2014 Thor or 2013 Thor, so he has both, and he's just going in on Thanos. Thanos eventually gets the better of him in a sense, knocks Mjolnir out of his hands. He's about to do the freaking coup de grace on old Thor, and Mjolnir just hits him in the back of the head. And the way they shot it was well done, because it makes you feel like it's Thor calling Mjolnir, right? Like you feel like that's what it is.
That's what I thought at first.
And then they do a pan to the hammer following him back all the way into Captain America's hand, and the face on Thor, he says like, I knew it.
Yeah.
He gets put away, and like
even now talking about this now, I'm starting to get chills. From that scene.
You have
it was such a good scene.
Captain America holding Mjolnir, has the shield in hand, getting ready to go in, and fuck you. You mentioned it earlier. I popped as for I can't even talk right now. I popped like hell for that scene, because I was like, yes, kick ass.
I was out in the theater, like I didn't go with any of my friends. I went to see this one by myself, and I was like, yes. It's like, oh my god, holy shit. I was like just talking to myself, like excited.
I was
for
by
the
myself
scene.
too. I went by myself, and I was just popping. I was like, oh yes. I was like, oh my god, that was such a great moment, great scene right there.
Yeah. So they even had like the whole thing where he did like, I guess like it's kind of like an uppercut thing, and it looked like just a perfect like,
Stars and Stripes
picture. Yeah, it's like you saw like him from the side,
Yeah.
with the hammer in his hand, the shield. It was like it's like a picture perfect moment right there. I'm like, it was just so good.
So good. I was
like so excited for that.
good, and the way they shot it, like I said, it was perfect, because like they did that whole pan where you don't know, you're like kind of thinking like, oh okay, it's Thor calling his hammer, and then just shot right back, and I was like, oh shit, fucking great. Yeah, I mean, eventually Thanos still gets the upper hand. They have the back and forth. He knocks out Tony. He knocks out Thor. In a scene very reminiscent of Infinity Gauntlet comic book, you have Cap, walking towards even before that actually, like Thanos with that sword just breaks down Cap's shield to smithereens, which is another scene that wasn't in the trailer. With that scene where Cap is on the floor and he's about to get up and like does that, tightening up the shield. It shows a full shield, whereas in this scene it's like literally like half a shield, and you're starting to get like those flashbacks of Age of Ultron where you have the broken shield that Tony's like envisioning, right? You're like, oh shit, like is this what he saw? Like, is this what Tony saw and everything like that?
Another thing too is like, it was like really subtle, but I noticed it, is the fact that the reason he's tightening his shield is because he's using it as a tourniquet, because like his arm is slashed open.
Yes.
So he's like tightening the shield to kind of like use it as a tourniquet to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was. I didn't see the bleeding. I thought it was because like he was like his arm was like fucked up, like broken or something like that. So he was just like tightening it to like kind of like, like numb the pain kind of a thing. I didn't realize it was because like he was like that cut. It was like literally like so fast, but I knew it was something like that. I knew he wasn't just doing it just because like it would look cool. I knew it was a reason, like he was just doing it because he was injured or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, a scene reminiscent of the Infinity Gauntlet, comic book. He's just like walking up to Thanos, and I was like, I was getting nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, shit, this is it. This is it. He's walking up to Thanos, and like in the comic book, we all know, like, that's when Thanos just backhands him and kills him, which is a very bitch way to die. Again, I'm glad they didn't end up going that way. But no, you get old Sam whispering into Cap's ear, and he's telling him on his left, and this is when you get the cavalry arriving scene. And I don't know, Mez, this is the second part I got chills for. I don't know about you.
And I was gonna say the same thing. Another chills inducing moment is when you see everyone coming in. See, like,
you see the Doctor Strange portals being like opened, and one of the first people coming through is old Black Panther, Shuri, and I keep forgetting her name. Was Okaye?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the first three to come through. One dude in the theater I was in just popped for that one. He was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Oh, okay, you know what? Hey, man, I got my Captain America one. You can get your black, whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's something here for everybody. You know."
And yeah,
And
to get all of you had like then the other portal with Doctor Strange coming out, and the Guardians, Drax, Mantis,
Quill.
and then Quill, and then the secondary, another big pop I heard in the theaters when you saw Spider-Man
Yeah,
swinging on through. Everyone was also cheering.
you got the hero
in that
shot
theater.
for that one.
Yeah.
And then you just see like a massive amount. You see all the freaking portals in the world opening up, and just like armies from all over coming through. You know, you got the Asgardians, you got freaking the space people, you got the Doctor Strange monks. You know, they're just coming from all
Yeah.
over, like a Wakandan army. They're all coming from all over and stuff like that. Great scene, great fucking thing. And then like I don't know, well, the big battle scene, like what? How do you think it played out? Like, you know, some people aren't fans of CGI versus CGI kind of a thing. But I don't know. What do you think?
For me, it was really good. Like it just and the way they shot it, I guess like the angle they had on it,
Mm-hmm.
when you saw like the two forces going together,
Mm-hmm.
it just set up like a great like looking battle scene, because you even saw like all the forces going together with like people standing out, like the heroes standing
Yeah.
out, and then you saw like freaking Ant-Man
Oh
in the
yeah.
background, like
Giant
rushing
Man.
on through.
That's something,
Yeah,
that's
Giant
something we
Man.
forgot. Like, yeah, Ant-Man did go down to save Hawkeye and Nebula and this girl and Gamora to get the gauntlet, and he eventually just changed into, and Hulk, because I forgot Hulk was down there as well, like holding up this structure for Rhodey and Rocket to get out of.
Yeah,
And this guy comes back. He turns to Giant Man, gets the Hulk, gets everybody like that, and gets them out of there. And yeah, so that scene, so that puts Giant Man back into the thing. So then you have also Wasp come out, Hope. I can't say her name. Evangeline Lilly.
Evangeline
Yeah,
Lilly.
she comes back as Hope. You have all these people come back. You know, Bucky is back, which you know
yeah.
is a big thing for Cap.
Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet
coming
Witch
back.
is coming back. Also, that's another established permadeath is Vision. He did not come back
Vision,
because he wasn't
yes.
vanished. He was hard killed. When they did that charging scene, like, you know, they get everybody coming back and everything like that, and they charge that to each other, where you see all the mains, and you, like you said, Giant Man, Ant-Man standing out over there. I didn't get chills like that. Like, I got goosebumps from that when they were rushing each other and everything like
Yeah.
that. I haven't got that since, like, I think maybe Return of the King, where that was like the last good big battle scene that I had seen in a theater or in a movie before, where it was like these two big forces just colliding at each other. And this one was a little bit more for me because it's so many characters that I know and like I've been following. You know, Lord of the Rings was great because it was like 3 years of this thing, but like, you know, of this saga of a movie, you know, being told, and they earned that big battle scene too. But this also was earned. You know, you can't just throw
Yeah.
big battle scenes in your movie just to make it look cool. This was kind of an earned thing where it was like years of setting this whole thing up, and you had these two forces just going after each other. And I was like, fuck, I got fucking goosebumps.
Yeah,
like my face felt
was like-
flush, everything.
It was like on such an epic scale, because even like Infinity War had the battle scene in Wakanda,
Yeah.
but that was still like
It wasn't
the
everybody.
forces were kind of split.
Yeah, it wasn't everybody.
Here, everyone was together.
Everybody got a moment.
Yeah,
And it was great. It was fucking great for it. Like, oh,
and what kind of one of the things I like too is like everyone will talk about the whole Avengers. Is like, oh, all the Avengers have powers except for like Black Widow and Hawkeye. What would they do in that scene?
mhm.
And this is kind of like a thing too, is like because Black Widow wasn't there because
Mhm.
she was killed beforehand, and Hawkeye's job was basically just like messenger.
Yeah.
To get the gauntlet.
Delivery boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was just trying to keep the gauntlet away from Thanos.
Yes.
Like, that was his job.
I like that scene too.
Like-
I like that little, you know, toss-up scene where you got it. You know, you got the Hawkeye passing it to Black Panther, who I think
Yeah.
passed it to Spidey after that, right? If I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man was getting carried from a whole bunch of people. He got carried. I think who was the first one that pushed him along? It was
Probably, I think it was Valkyrie.
I think there was somebody else before that. I can't remember. There was a bunch of people like just trying to get him along. So I like that whole scene how it played out. They were just playing like hot potato with the gauntlet.
It might have been also because they had rescue.
That's who got him. Yeah, I forgot about that. Rescue's in there, which is Pepper Potts in her own Iron Man armor, which I like that it wasn't like as a surprise because Tony kind of mentioned it earlier, kind of preparing people for the fact that she has armor. Like when the daughter's playing with it, he's like, "Oh, that's your mom's thing." You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that's get ready because it's coming. It's not like a thing where it's like all of a sudden at the end, "Hey, I'm an Iron Woman," and it's like, "What? Where did that come from?" It's like, no, he said it. Get ready for it, And I didn't have, like I said, I didn't have a problem with it because I just didn't care. It was just made for a cool scene, kind of a thing. And it's like, why wouldn't he do that, right? Like why wouldn't Tony do that? Like, why wouldn't he share the burden or give her something like that? Like to protect their kid, especially. Like, why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If he's somewhere else, it would be up to Potts to protect their child. So, of course, he would make some kind of, like, Iron Man suit for her.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, Tony's always going to be Tony. He's always going to be trying to create something.
Yes, exactly. Like, I'm surprised there's no baby, like, Iron Man suit. Or, like, he probably tried it and Pepper just put a kibosh on it or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they do that whole thing. It goes for a while, and then you get the return of Captain Marvel, right? Because what led to it was Scarlet Witch was fucking owning Thanos. She was super pissed at him for everything, and Scarlet Witch is super fucking uber powerful, and she's just literally just tearing him apart. It looked like I thought she was gonna start separating like limbs from him. I was like, shit, that looks, because she was like ripping off his armor and doing other stuff like that, and I thought she was like just gonna take away his arm, in that sense. And Thanos just freaking drops the hammer of dawn on the whole fucking fight, and he's just like, destroy everything. He's blasting all the field and stuff like that, and then the guns start pointing into the sky. Everybody's like, what are they shooting at? And
that's one of the things too. Like, I completely forgot about Captain Marvel because like she was gone in the first act of the movie. Like, she left.
Yes, with her new haircut.
And, yeah,
which is badass. I liked it.
And I was like, all right. Then like the rest of the movie happened, and within those 2 hours, I completely forgot about Captain Marvel.
You don't really need her.
So when they were like, "Oh, why is the gun shooting up?" I'm like, "I don't. Why are the guns looking up?" Then I saw Captain. I'm like, "Holy shit! I forgot Captain Marvel."
Another great like moment where you're like, "God damn, these guys know what the fuck they're doing." Because like, you forgot about them, and then the guns, and you're like, "Why are they shooting up?" I'm like, "Who is it?" Like, and then because I was questioning it, I was like, "Who the fuck? Like, who else is who's left?" Like everybody's here. Like, is this some kind of new person? Like, even for a split second, I thought it was like, is it Adam Warlock? Like, are they gonna introduce him like this, like that? You know what I'm saying? And it was, no, here comes Captain. I was like, oh shit, of course, Captain Marvel. What the fuck happened to her? Like, yeah. So I had the same kind of reaction. I was like, oh shit, yeah, it's her. And then she comes down. She starts getting into the fray, battling back and forth. It became eventually a point of like everybody going for the gauntlet. The gauntlet is all formed. Yeah. Thanos tries to have it. His new plan, which I didn't even mention, was not even to get rid of half the people anymore. He was gonna just get rid of everything and start his own new universe, which I liked it. He was like, yeah, this failed. As long as there are people gonna be around to remember what happened, they're gonna try to like rectify it. So he's like, I'm just gonna start my own thing. That was his plan.
It's not even like the fact that they would try to rectify it. It's the fact that they wouldn't move on. Like his whole idea of like getting rid of half the people so that the other half would thrive.
Yeah.
But it's like he in his mind, he's like the other side can't thrive if they know what they lost.
Yeah.
So the plan would have never worked anyway.
So his new plan was just get rid of everything and start a whole new universe. Yeah. So there was a hard thing for that one now because that means the existence of everybody. So there's some stakes there to be made. So it became a hot potato for the gauntlet, back and forth with it. I do like the scene. I don't know how you felt about it, where like Spider-Man gives up the gauntlet to Captain Marvel, and he's like, "Oh, how are you gonna get over there?" And then you get all the, you get the female heroes popping in there, and I was like, that's pretty okay, pretty badass scene there as well. I don't know if it was necessary because I think Captain Marvel could have just bum rushed through everybody, like she did anyway. But hey, it gives everybody their moment. You know what I'm saying? And they all get like they'll get to play with Thanos as well. Give him a ass whooping here and there. Thanos eventually gets the upper hand on Captain Marvel. eventually by taking out. She she was holding her own for a bit. I like that scene where he headbutted her. She kind of just no sold it to hell.
Yeah,
and he had to take out the power.
I think they kind of prefaced that too because he did the exact same thing. I think it was to one of the three.
I think it was Thor.
Either Thor, Cap, or Iron Man.
It was Thor. He
the
headbutted
exact
him.
same thing where he just he headbutted him and he just gone.
Yeah, he dazed, like he was like he made him dizzy, like he stunned him. You can tell with the headbutt. And with her, like he stunned, and she's just like no sold it and was looking dead at him. Where to the point he had to literally take out the power gem and like smash it with it because that's the only way he could get the advantage. And then that brings us kind of like to the climax. You see Tony, Iron Man, meet eyes with Doctor Strange across the field, and he puts that finger up. He's letting him know, one, because they had the early discussion where Tony reiterates, he's like,
was this the one?
Yeah, he was like, is this the, and he's like, if I told you what you need to know or whatever, like it wouldn't happen. And out of that, meeting of the eyes, Tony kind of figured out what he had to do. He charges at Thanos, takes out the gems, puts it into himself, and says the fucking line, like, I am Iron Man, and snaps his finger. And that ultimately gets rid of all of the bad guys on the field, including Thanos himself. What did you think about that whole scene?
And one of the things too, I was kind of thinking about it more after I like finished the movie and everything was like the whole thing where Doctor Strange was like, oh, you have to like set up everything that has to happen in order to defeat him.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of think about it, it's like the reason all that had to happen was because the gems had to be in Iron Man's technology. Because that's how Iron Man was able to get it out of Thanos' gauntlet and onto his hand. It's because it was all like nanoparticles, so it all could transfer it once he touched it.
Yeah.
It's like, had it been on Thanos' gauntlet, Iron Man couldn't control the gems.
Yes. It would have, torn to pieces like right away.
No, not only that, but the fact that like it wasn't like he didn't grab each gem. It was like him just touching the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Had the nanoparticles within his suit and the gauntlet transfer it to him without him having to touch it at all.
Oh, I didn't. Wait, what?
You know what I mean?
I did not get that. No.
Because I'm like all of Stark's stuff.
It's not. I know it's nano. Like, cause
it's nano.
Yeah, I get it. Cause like, yeah.
So it's like he was able to just touch Thanos' hand and transfer all the gems through those like nano, like the nano things.
Yes.
Without having to like physically grab each one from the gauntlet.
Okay.
Because both the technologies were using the same thing.
All right, I get that so far.
So that's what I'm saying. Like the reason that Thanos had to make the gauntlet, destroy everything, was so that the Avengers had to go back, recreate the gauntlet using Iron Man's technology. So that all the gems were in Iron Man's tech at that point, so that he could snap and get rid of all of Thanos' forces.
Oh, wow. I did not get that the first time I watched it.
Because like that was my whole thought thing, was because Stark could move anything as long as it's his technology.
Yes.
So if it was on Thanos' original gauntlet, even if he grabbed Thanos' hand, he wouldn't be able to move the gems at all.
Yes.
But the fact that it was on his technology, he was able to manipulate it.
Wow.
So I was like,
yeah, and they even had the scene where he was building a gauntlet. He building his own gauntlet, and that's how I was able to get into Hulk's big old hand. Wow, that kind of like flew over my head the first time I watched it. Wow, nice pickup. Damn, I did not even get that.
That's why like when he was like, oh, everything has to happen for this one chance, and like why he gave him the time stone, I'm like, that's the only thing in my head would make sense, is because everything had to happen so that Iron Man could recreate the gauntlet.
Yes.
To get to that one point where all he had to do was make contact at all. And I'm like, that was it for me. Like if I don't know if I'm making this up or if that's what they intended, but I'm like that would have been perfect. That's the perfect reason.
I mean, it is like, because other than that, nothing else makes sense to me, to be honest. Like if it was just like, oh, it's a per chance thing happening, like that wouldn't be as satisfying. Like hearing what you're saying makes what Doctor Strange did that much more better. Like it makes sense. Like it makes him that much more smarter. Like that much more like cunning, that he says like, this is the one chance. It's literally the one chance, and it literally means that, because without Tony doing any of that stuff, it's not possible. Like the minute he would have taken out one stone from the gem, from the gauntlet, Thanos would have fucking, backhanded him away or something like that. Like they did before. They tried all that stuff before, taking the stuff from Thanos' gauntlet, and they failed.
They tried taking the gauntlet off in full.
Yeah, they tried taking it off in full, and it failed. So taking one, first of all, would have fucked them up just generally, because like if you take one out without having it adapted to your technology, like I said, it would have just messed them up. Like Quill was burning up too, but he's damn half celestial. So a normal human like Tony would have probably killed him anyway. So having it adapt to him and stuff like that, and because it's his own technology, like that makes much more sense. And that's something I didn't even get from the first time I watched it. So yeah, good pickup on that one.
But yeah. But yeah, then the whole thing you was talking about, like the whole Iron Man snap.
Yep.
And
so that leads to their victory. Because like everybody, all the bad guys get dusted. Thanos, he's one of the last ones there. He does his sit down pose. Excuse me, and he gets dusted. And then that brings us to probably the heaviest emotional scene in the movie, which is the death of Iron Man.
The second permadeath.
The second permanent. I mean, you can the third if you want to count everybody else, but like it's probably the most impactful one of the whole movie.
Yeah.
You see Rhodey coming up to him crying, kind of has the tears in his eye, putting him. Spidey is really, letting it out, bawling and stuff like that, telling him that we won, we did it. And Pepper comes up, and Tony the whole time he's kind of just like out of it. Like you can tell, like I think like half his brain is just gone or something like that. Like he was just out of everything. He didn't even say anything. Like it wasn't like a thing where he was responding back. He was just like, just like looking around, like he was dazed. And I think the only thing he said was what, Pepper or Potts or something like that. Like I don't know if he said anything else after that. Because Pepper just tells him like, you can rest now. You can finally rest. And that was the thing for him, that he wasn't able to rest because the world was always in peril because of Thanos and everything like that. So, this was his chance to rest. And with that, he faded away and he died.
Yeah. He started the power down of the suit and everything like that to let everyone else, like, this is it. And then it cuts. Sad scene.
Really sad, emotional. I did not draw a tear. I thought I would, but I didn't, because I think a lot of people were expecting somebody to go.
Now, the one that drew a tear for me was the scene that comes up next.
Well, the scene that comes up,
the funeral scene.
Yeah, the scene that comes up is the funeral scene. Go ahead.
The one that hit me, and fuck the Russos for doing this and the scriptwriters, was at the end of like they had like Tony's hologram talking.
Oh, okay.
Which like talking about like before he went to like start the whole time travel thing.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, he says the "Love You 3000" thing.
Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck you guys." That one got me.
That was a callback to something his daughter said earlier in the movie, where she said like, "I love you 3000," kind of like how kids do that thing, like "I love you 1,000,000" or whatever. So yeah, it was a nice little scene there. They put the heart that he had from the original Iron Man, like the reactor core from the original Iron Man, on like a flower. They set that away. It wasn't really his body. It was just kind of like a wreath they were kind of just doing for him. Then they pan through and they show all the heroes there. Everybody gets a nice little scene. They even had the little kid from Iron Man 3. He was there.
Yeah, which I didn't realize at first. I had to like kind of.
You gotta remember there's the 5-year jump. Like he grew. Of course he grew up. And actually, what I read was that it's actually the same kid. So I was like, oh shit, I guess he just grew up himself. Like it was actually the same kid, not like a different actor or whatever. I think that's what happens there. They had the hologram scene, and then they had the scene where I think Cap is returning. I mean, they had some other scenes there, like Hawkeye talking to Scarlet Witch about remembering Natty, or Natalia. Wow,
Natasha.
Thinking of freaking wrestling here. Natasha, and she remembers Vision. Nick Fury is back. You had him showing up as well. I think that was it, right? Before they get to the real end, like the like the ending. I don't think anybody else had any other scenes there. So then we get to like the scene where Cap, Hulk, and these guys are trying to transport the gems back into the time where they belong in order to kind of restore the timelines and not make it like any fucked up as it is or anything like that. Not trying to create any other tangent universes. So before we get to that thing, like, isn't it weird? Like, you think like did you ever think about how Cap was actually going to restore all those things? Like, or is it just kind of like, don't think about it? Like a moment there.
What do you mean?
Like, he has to restore the Tesseract back to the army base, the Aether, he has to kind of put that back into Jane Foster, the wand is probably easy because that was just kind of like a thing he could just toss that back into into the fray. The Soul Stone, he's gonna see Red Skull again. Like, is that not a weird you know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of this stuff's kind of really glossed over, where it's kind of like, I guess, don't think about it, and it can't really be answered anymore because of what happened. So Cap goes back in time. Professor Hulk states that, he'll be there for as long as he needs to, but it'll only be like 5 seconds for us. He does the countdown. Before that, Cap has to say goodbye to Sam and Bucky. They do the countdown and Cap doesn't show up. Hulk states that, he bypassed his timeline or his time path and he went to a different place. And then they show Bucky and looking off to the distance, he sees some figure there. He tells Sam to go ahead. And then we get the one that this is the one that got me. It wasn't Tony's death. You see old senior citizen, Steve Rogers there, Captain America. And that one got me because I was like, damn, they did it. They didn't kill him. They gave him the old retirement. And I was like, that made me happy. I was like, yes, that brought some watery eyes to me because I was like, I'm glad Cap got his good, his good life kind of a thing,
He got the life he wanted.
He talks to Sam about it. He's like, Sam's happy for him. No, nothing there. And, he says he's going to be tough living in a world without Captain America. And it's where Cap passes the baton or the shield, so to say, going forward, leading it for Sam to kind of be the new Captain America. And I know a lot of people were expecting it either to be him or Bucky. Man, it looks like they're going with, Sam for this one with the Falcon.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Based off comics, those are like the most likely of the two.
Yeah.
Where you'd be Sam or Bucky, and they went with Sam. I'm like, it works. I feel like Winter Soldier is like a popular enough character where they could just keep using Winter Soldier as the character. Didn't need him to be Captain America. And I feel like the moniker of Captain America for Falcon would help him a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you're thinking business wise, like going forward, yes. Even in the movie, I mean, in the like the universe of that one, it makes sense for him too. Like, even though Bucky is probably like more his like a personal friend, I think Cap has a lot more respect for what Sam does because Sam is like, he's always putting himself out there. He's always like willing to go forward like Cap does. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't hide away like, like Bucky did or anything like that. Like, Bucky's all about, I want to put myself out of the equation. Like he hid himself away in Wakanda. He hid himself away before that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's like Sam is more of like the personification of what
Captain America is. Like, I'm gonna be out on the front line. Like that's where I want to be. So even it made sense for that one because I know some people might say, well, that's his best friend. It's like, but you got to think about it from Cap's point of view. Like, who really like holds the ideals of what Captain America is, and it's Sam. Like, he's the one that's gonna be out there. They even like alluded to it a little bit in the scene before where he tells Cap, like, you sure you want me to go with you? And Cap says, like, you're a good man. He's like just letting him know right there, like, even more, further solidifying his his choice. Like, Bucky didn't say anything like that. It was Sam who did it. And he's like, Bucky already knew what the answer would be, but the fact that Sam asked that, is what lends credence to the fact that he would be, a better Captain America. So and the scene kind of goes back to the past. You have Cap doing his one dance with
finally gets
that dance with Peg Carter, and the movie ends. And I was incredibly happy. I left that movie with like a good sense of like a good feeling of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um,
It's like that movie touched on every emotion
Every
you wanted on the
emotion.
movie and left you on that good note.
you know what? There was one scene that I forget about, and it was the Guardians with Thor. Another like
Oh,
great
yeah.
scene, and another like. So this kind of goes into like my last point for this review, and it's like the future of the MCU. It seems like there's a real kind of like a hard reset in some senses here because we're losing some of the old guard. You know, Scarlet is gone. I mean, Scarlett Johansson. But Black
Yeah.
Widow is gone. Cap is retired. Iron Man is for all intents and purposes dead for the moment. Thor not. Thor his series might be over, but it looks like he might be joining up with the Guardians. His scene, he hands over Asgard to Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson, and he joins up with the Guardians, and they had this just great scene with him and Chris Pratt, where they're like, arguing about who's gonna be in charge, and like, and he's like, yeah, everybody knows who's in charge, and everybody's like instigating a fight, like, yeah, you guys should fight for this thing, and such a great thing, and like, do you think this is gonna lead to like Thor actually being in like Guardians 3 or like a future series with them? Like, I don't know. Would you like that? I mean,
I think it'll be good because it fits that whole like space cosmic type thing, and like he has like kind of like the comedic chops to be in part of the Guardians
Hemsworth,
thing.
yeah, he fits right in.
Yeah.
So like, it's perfect.
Yeah, especially now that he's Fat Thor.
Fat Thor. I know. I'm like, they gotta continue Fat Thor for a little bit. Like, don't show him like super fit right away. Like, and honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Hemsworth would like want to keep doing it just to give Thor something different. Because he even looks like kind of like just like a Viking anyway, with when he had the braided beard and the hair mangled
too. Yeah, it's like when he like Thored up to fight Thanos. Like his hair got braided, his beard got braided, and all of that stuff. I'm like, oh, that looks cool now. Like, it has like that Viking feel. Yeah, like you were saying.
He's like a Viking, like old Viking. And he even the big thing. He looked like one of the Warriors 3. I forgot what was the other one's name. Like one of his friends that
Volstagg.
Yeah, kind of had the same look to him. But yeah, he had like the matted hair. I was like, yes, to keep that going. Like, that's something else that he could play with into Guardians, or maybe even like another Thor movie. Because I know he said he's down to do another Thor movie if Marvel wants to. I don't know if they need it. If they're gonna do this whole thing with Guardians stuff like that, I would definitely like, I buy into that more, than just another solo Thor movie for the sake of having another solo Thor movie.
So and there's one thing too I was gonna talk about in that scene is like right before they show like Thor walk into the ship, they show Chris Pratt or Peter Quill has the whole thing that says like searching for Gamora.
Yes. Because they did have an interaction on the battlefield as well, where he's like, oh, he's happy to see her, and he tries to go for her, and she like kicks him in the nuts, and it's like, because that's 2014 pre-Guardians Gamora, not his Gamora, and I mean, so what do you think about that one too? Like bringing her back, like that kind of workaround.
See, this is the kind of thing I was thinking is with Iron Man snap. Did his snap get rid of Thanos' forces, or did it get rid of anyone who came from 2014?
That's honestly, I thought about that myself. I don't know the answer to it, and I think the way they played up that little cliffhanger with the thing searching for her was perfect, because I mean, you got to figure that's got to play into Guardians 3, right? Like the search for Gamora or something. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the search for Gamora, like Star Trek.
So
the search for Spock.
It's like I was thinking about them, like, is she gone because she was from that year, or is she still alive because she technically wasn't part of Thanos' force?
Don't know.
At the end,
we don't know what happens.
But would Iron Man know that? Like, would he be able to like suss all that out at that point?
I don't think so. I think I don't even know. He didn't even know her. He had no, like, he never met her. He has no qualms, like, anything about her. He, for him, it would have just been like, anybody who came here from this thing, get out, kind of a thing, right? You don't know. So, like, I think those are questions that can be answered in Guardians 3. You mentioned earlier Spider-Man, the fact that they're going back to school. We don't know how that plays into it, why, nobody else aged or graduated. Did they get vanished? Did they get brought back? I'm assuming Far From Home is gonna be the one that answers a lot of those questions. Shield. Bucky and Falcon. I know they had the Disney Plus series going on. So a lot of that stuff's gonna be answered for them going forward. But what do you think this happens now with the MCU? For right now, there's really no Avengers. Like I don't see another thing happening. And I think Marvel even said it, like they're taking a break from, I think after Spider-Man, it's another movie's not going to be out for maybe a year and a half. I think Guardians might be the next one after that. But like, what do you think, if there is going to be another Avengers, what is it going to look like?
I mean, I don't know. Like, the only one from the like old guard would be Thor,
and he has no interest in doing it. He's doing his own thing.
He's not really a leader. Either.
Like,
so I don't know what
I know they have Panther, they have Captain Marvel, but she's always doing other stuff. She wasn't even like that much into this movie as much as I thought she would be, to be honest. She's always gonna be doing her own thing. Panther maybe is gonna be like the new Iron Man of the MCU, maybe holding it down as like I said, the figurehead. But who would he have? Is he gonna be just Bucky and Sam? There. Would they get caught with the Guardians? Does this just put everybody back into their place? It's gonna be like Spidey, Panther, holding down Earth. So it's a lot of questions right now. Strange, yeah. I mean, they have the tools there if they want to. It's just a matter of like, what do they want to set up next? Yeah. And I'm kind of like, it's kind of weird to think about because you just concluded this whole fucking saga, and that's what it is. This movie felt like the conclusion of a big saga, like a really earned saga.
They even call it like
it's the end of the Infinity Saga.
Like the first.
So it's weird to think about where they want to go, and I know Marvel has the plan. I just don't think they're going to implement it now, and I think it's good for them to just kind of like take a break from a lot of these heavy movies and just kind of like do light stuff and maybe not put nothing out. Because I know they don't have a plan to put stuff out for a while now, maybe like a year and a half or maybe 2 years, and I'm like, do that, like take a break. Like,
I mean, they also have if they look to it, they have some like footholds for like a Young Avengers type thing too.
It's true.
With Hawkeye's daughter, you have Ant-Man's daughter, Iron Man's daughter,
Shuri.
Like, you have like this other generation of people.
Mm-hmm.
Even like Spider-Man could be the leader of that.
Yeah,
because he's technically would be
the oldest,
like an Avenger who can lead the Young Avengers.
That is true.
So it's like they have that kind of set up if they want to go that direction too and create a Young Avengers.
And I know that Kevin Feige said they don't have any plans for them right now because they have their little 5-year plan, but like they also have the inclusion of all the characters from Fox. They have the X-Men. It's a big universe to explore there, and I'm totally down. I was so happy when he said like we have no plans for them right now. We're not gonna put them in Endgame. There's not gonna be a cool cameo, nothing like that. Like, this is our people. Like, we have a plan. We had a plan for these guys. We have no plan to include any of them in there. This is how it's going to be. And I'm like, yes, don't touch the X-Men. Let the motherfuckers breathe for years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, surprised if we don't hear from them for the next 7 years. I'm like, that's fine. That is fine. Because they already got their little 5-year plans, what they're going to do. But I don't know. What do you think the next thing could be, though? Like, to end it on this last question, could it be, secret invasion, secret war type thing? Could it be any other Civil War implication? I know, even though Iron Man is not here for it, Captain Marvel was one of the major figureheads for the second Civil War. Could there be one with her and Black Panther based off of some kind of conflict? Maybe a Kree conflict kind of a thing where like, not the Kree, the Skrulls, where like, Panther sees them as the enemy, but she knows that there are good ones, and they have kind of like a back and forth thing. I don't know. What other storylines do you think they're gonna tackle?
Like, as far as like big like Avengers level things, it's hard to think of anyone that's as big as Thanos. Really,
he was a major one. And they shouldn't do like another 10-year thing. Like, I know they have a 5-year plan, which is fine. That's great. Keep it short.
Yeah.
But yeah, who's gonna be the first like Thanos? Well, who's gonna be not even Thanos? Like, who's gonna be the next Loki for like Avengers, like an Avengers type movie, or an Ultron? Like, what is the next kind of like key villain that could bring them could bring a group together like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Marvel has them.
Well, I mean,
they're there. It's just weird to think like who they're gonna.
There's always Galactus.
That is true.
A good Galactus.
A good Galactus.
Hopefully.
That's true. And they do have access to him. They have Doom now as well. They don't have to use the heroes, but they can use the villains. I know Kitty would advocate for Fing Fang Foom. I don't know why she's.
Oh my god. Or Kang.
Kang. Yeah. I know Minister's disappointed in his prediction. In the prediction video that we did, he assumed that Michelle Pfeiffer was gonna somehow be involved in this thing majorly, and I told him that's not gonna happen. I don't think they're gonna invest all this time in Thanos to have him be. I mean, he did. He was right. He was killed in the first 20 minutes of the movie, but it was not Michelle Pfeiffer holding it down. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested. For the first time, it's kind of like, we got a sense of closure ourselves on this series. And we can kind of like take a break now. I mean, there's Spider-Man Far From Home, but we're going into that kind of like, there are no major stakes in that. There's nothing we have to worry about.
This was like the end of the main course. Spider-Man Far From Home's like, oh, that's the dessert.
No. But yeah, that does it for that saga. And you know what? That's gonna probably do it for this podcast as well, for this review. Like we stated, overall, I mean, it went long, but this movie was long. You know what I'm saying? Overall, this to me, it's a great movie. It's an awesome conclusion to a series, to a saga that definitely earned it. Like, earned every movie watch, every fucking end credit scene you had to like sit through waiting for to see what the hell was gonna happen. It was all worth it, like, and I'm glad I wasn't disappointed in it. Like, there was always the fear that this movie was gonna let you down, but it didn't.
Like, I've seen it like a couple places that they even said is like, this movie was a love letter to like all the Marvel fans, all the comic book fans, everyone who went to the movies to watch all the movies for the past 10 years. It's like, this movie was a love letter to all those people who like put all that time in. Like, they put in all those references. They made you feel for the characters, and like every moment of those 3 hours was earned. Like, it didn't feel like there was a lot of wasted time in the movie. And
I'm willing to see the 6-hour cut whenever it's released on. I will sit down. I don't know if I will sit down in a theater for 6 hours. I was willing to. I wanted more movie. But if there's like a fucking another hour of movie like they can put out there, like, I know they don't really do into that stuff like the Lord of the Rings did, but I would be down for like a fucking 6-hour cut. I would sit through that shit. I'd be like, let's get it. I'll be at home like, let's go. I don't care. Let's do this thing. But yeah, it was a great thing, a great movie from beginning to end. I can't think of anything where it was like a lull or anything that felt like it was dragging on. There was always something happening, and like you said, it was moments in there that was specifically for certain people where you're like, this is my moment. Like, I got mine with Cap. I mean, you got it as well, even though you're not like that big of a Cap fan. Other people got certain things, Professor Hulk for people who like that, Thor, Fat Thor, his comedy stuff in there, the Guardians are back. So everybody got something, even the scene with like the female superheroes, there's something there for everybody where it's like, we got it all, and none of it felt out of place, and none of it felt like cheesy or anything like that. You just kind of like lived in the moment of that movie. But yeah, like, I mean, if you haven't, I don't know what. I mean, I think the whole world has seen it. This movie's breaking all kind of records, so I can't even say like if you haven't seen it. I think probably Keha is the only one who has no interest in watching this at this point. But yeah. That'll do it for us here on this Avengers Endgame spoiler-filled review. Anything else you want to state before we sign off, Mez?
No, not really.
Just gonna go watch it again.
I think we've said it. We've said it all.
Gonna go watch it again.
I want to go watch this again.
Hell yes. Everybody should watch it again, 2-3 times. I plan to. I can't wait for the movie to come out on digital download already. I want to have it. But that's gonna do it for me. I'm Bimba W Zan, joined by Mazentiest. This has been the Avengers Endgame review. Thanks for listening. If you have throughout the rest of this, leave your likes and comments below what you thought about the movie, any other stuff you might agree with, disagree with. But yeah.
If you have any other predictions of what might be coming
next.
next.
Definitely. If you have any predictions of what might be coming next, leave those down in the comments. And tune in for our podcast and Overwatch videos. But until then, we'll see you later, guys.